And thank you, Your Royal Highness, for joining us. Sean talked about gamers without borders, and you wear many hats: president or chairman of Saudi Esports Federation, vice chairman of the Savvy Group. But what really struck me was what you did during pandemic COVID, Gamers Without Borders. Tell us what happened.
So first of all, thank you everyone for being here, and thank you for having me here. It's a real pleasure and honor to be here among so many people from not just this industry, but industries that are close by. And with Gamers Without Borders, it was a really a humbling initiative. We had gotten approval to do a big event just before the pandemic hit. And like many people, we had to cancel everything and kind of, redraw our plans and figure out what we're doing. And so we thought, how can we use the support and the permissions we've gotten, both from, publishers, industry, and everything, sponsors, and really turn that for something that can do, some global good. And, we worked on an initiative called Gamers Without Borders, which I always like to say it started in Saudi, but it's not a Saudi event. It's a worldwide event, because gaming really is borderless. The first year we focused on COVID relief, the second year was vaccine distribution, and the third year, this year, we changed the program a little bit and made it values-based, where we worked with our partners on what they're doing rather than focusing them in on just COVID. And on each year we've raised $10 million a year, and we did that with a professional esports tournament where the professional teams played for a big prize pool, and they chose which charity their prize pool got donated to in their name. And so it was also a chance to give the charities a chance to be a little bit creative in advertising and get a message out there to this community, which is a big community. I mean, we're talking about 3 billion plus, in the world of gamers. It's also a young and active community, and really to give them a chance to showcase who they are. They're not just that old mentality of sitting in a basement and wasting time. They are an active, they are a social community, and they want to do good and not just do well. So it was very exciting.
I remember when I first heard about it from you, I was like, this sounds like it's going to be pretty cool. But when I saw how it developed, right, tens of millions of dollars donated to charity, you hosted the world's best gamers, esports players in Saudi, from Saudi. I was telling everyone I knew, say, hey guys, you got to stop whatever you're doing. Take a look at what's happening here. And since you have had the chance to host the best gamers or esports players from around the world, I think you have a pretty unique perspective on what's happening in the world of gaming and esports. Tell us what you're seeing.
Well, I mean, first, just to take a step back, I mean, with Gamers Without Borders, one of the amazing things was not just getting the top gamers and the top teams to participate, but the charities that were able to join. I mean, we had UNICEF, UNHCR, King Salman Humanitarian Aid Center, Gavi the Vaccine Alliance, Direct Relief. I mean, we had so many global groups that did so much good. And the best part was at the end of the year, we got to give a report to each team about exactly what their money did so that they could have some ownership of the good that they've done in the world. And really showcase, I mean, when we talk about what's going on in the world of gaming, I mean, this is, as I said, it's 3 billion plus gamers in the world. Now, as with any other sport, I mean, the top 1% are professional, but that's still a lot of people. And how do we showcase who they are as human beings and not just as professional gamers and athletes? Because I think that sometimes gets lost in the shuffle, that these are, young men and women who are active. They are, paying attention to their physical health, to their mental health. They want to be a part of the global community. They want to do, the right things in their private life as well as in their public life. And one of the things, and when I talk about the perception of gamers, and this old perception of gamers in a basement and, in dingy rooms with all these screens and no social life, that's the perception of what gamers are today, and we're well past that. And I always tell people that rather than trying to convince gamers to join the rest of society has to realize that gamers are ahead of the game and everyone else needs to catch up.
Well, you definitely helped change a lot of that perception in spades, I would say, right? I'm pretty sure the gamers would have felt pretty good about themselves, having played for millions of dollars of prize pool, but the money not coming to them, going to charity, making an impact.
And one of the things that a lot of people also forget is that esports is bigger than just the gamers and the players. I mean, there's so many adjacencies. I mean, there's coaches, there's owners, casters, production specialists, and that's just in esports, which is just a fraction of what goes on in gaming. And within gaming as an industry, literally anything you have a passion for, there is a career path within gaming for. I mean, if you're interested in music, in acting, in production, in art, there is a career path. And that's, we talk about why does gaming matter, why does esports matter? I mean, it's a livelihood and it's a career path for so many people around the world. And the more people can see that, the more people can take part in it. And we're at a time, which is very interesting for us in the gaming industry, that people don't have to learn what esports is. People are being born in the world today where esports is their sport. And I think we have to all get on board with that and realize that and start to move that forward in the right way.
We're going to talk about esports in a bit, but before that, really kind of want to stay on a bit on the global trends, what you're seeing in gaming. I know yourself as a vice chairman of Savvy Group, and the country is betting really big in gaming and esports. Maybe let's take a step back and talk about the besides what we talked about, why it's such a big thesis for you?
Well, there was, I mean, if we're talking now, taking it down a step to locally, Saudi has a population of roughly 34 million people. 21 million of those consider themselves gamers, 21 plus. That's over 65% of the population consider themselves gamers. And the majority of those would like or enjoy a career path within that industry. So knowing those numbers, it's not something you can just ignore. I mean, this was something that was necessary. And one of the things that I'm very proud of is the amount of buy-in we've got from the top levels of government down to every member of the community. To say that, yes, this is an industry that we are interested in. We've got so many programs. We just launched a national strategy to really focus on how do we look at the industry holistically to make Saudi a global hub for gaming and esports. Now that's working across the board. That's working on education, schools and universities, but also academies that are focused on esports and gaming. That's focused on private sector, on public sector, on regulation. How do we firm up regulation on the black and gray market? But how do we open up regulation for game creation, for entry of international games and entry of international companies? And how do we make it a place where it's no longer the question of why are we doing this with Saudi or why are we doing this in Saudi? The question we want to create is why aren't we in Saudi? Why don't we go to Saudi? And that's the conversation changer we're getting to, and I'm very excited about it.
Huge, moving many big stones, big blocks. It looks like from, and maybe we should expand a bit about that. How you're looking at it from the ecosystem, from the infrastructure, how and you kind of like bring together resources, policy, investments into doing something, but bring folks into Saudi, and then from Saudi, kind of like impacting and benefiting the rest of the world.
Well, the thought process here behind everything that we do is how can we be additive? And by that, what I mean is, how can we do something without taking something from anyone, but adding value to what's there on the global scale? So rather than trying to convince a tournament to move from one city to Saudi, how can we create a new IP in Saudi that can bring in new teams, bring in a new showcase, create a new storyline, introduce new things? But also what we're trying to do is showcase what you can do in a new region if you have the support. Because there are the classic regions that everyone knows about, whether it's East Asia, China, Europe, the US. The Middle East has been underserved, underdeveloped when it came to gaming. And a lot of that has been changing in the very recent years with the introduction of servers. I mean, we had, and I mean this won't mean much to people outside of gaming, but we had ping rates of 150 plus, which in gaming is the difference between winning and losing. Now with hosting on local servers, we've brought those ping rates down to 40, which is better than most. But bringing up the infrastructure, bringing up the regulation, but also creating a professional infrastructure. We created a local league to teach teams how do you participate on the global stage. And that's one of the things that I think is also not underserved, but not focused on as much, is esports and gaming as an educational tool. I mean, one of the things that people often forget, I mean, we talk about gaming as this new fad, but I mean, gaming has been around since the beginning of time. It's just been in different formats. And as human beings progressed, gaming changed forms, from, sticks and stones to, board games and chess and things like that, to now the digital age where it is now gaming. But it still can be used in the same way, as a tool to teach children how to act, how to be professional, how to have respect, how to take a leadership role, how to manage your time. Now, of course, with anything, it can be used wrong, and you can play too much, and it can be a waste of time. But done right, it can be a tool to create the next generation what's the right word here? Of productive human beings, productive young men and women, rather than just, someone sitting in a room. And, that's another reason why gaming matters, is because it can be a tool to teach future skills and not just as a way to waste time.
And it's not just that being a productive human being. We've seen that you can make billions of dollars as you have invested a lot of money into the space, but also potentially a contributor to the economy, right? And you're thinking about this in, when we were chatting about in GDP terms.
I mean, our stated goal in Saudi, as per our national strategy, is by 2030, the gaming and esports industry will be roughly 1% of the Saudi GDP, which I will admit...
For a very large economy.
I will admit, when they first told me that number, I was like, do we really want to say 1%? I mean, that sounds like such a small number. And then they told me that's like 50 billion plus. I'm like, can we go like a little lower? Can we say like 0.8, 0.9? But with the community we've got, and the way things are moving, and how ambitious everything is, not just in Saudi, but in this industry, if you don't set your sights high, you'll never get anywhere. So we're being very ambitious, but we're also very confident that with the support of our community, with the support of our leadership, and with the support of the industry, which we are a part. And when we talk about community and when we talk about leadership, that really is global. Because when you come to industries like the ones being spoken about in this conference, it really is global. There really are no borders.
Since we're talking about $50 billion, right? No pressure, right? You have made some big moves, and we've kind of like been observing from where I sit, right? You've bought over the largest esports company in the world, ESL. I think you own 100% of that, was close to it. Face it, right? You've taken, I think this is public information, 8% stake in one of the world's largest game publisher, Embracer, and you have stakes in Activision, Blizzard. All these names I'm naming. I see people in the room, right, working for this company. Nick is sitting right over there, right? There's a lot of things moving. Whether it's undercurrent, you're moving big blocks. Maybe unpack that for us a little bit in terms of the investments. Yeah.
Well, again, it's how do we look at this as an industry holistically? The idea isn't to focus all our energy on any one thing. And this is an industry that no matter, even if you tried, you could not monopolize this as an industry. So let's just get that out of the way to begin with.
The starting point?
Yes. And that was never the intention. But what the intention is to, on one side, if you talk about it, investments, you want to have a diversified portfolio, you want to create income, you want to create, revenue growth and all of those, great financial terms that I understand nothing about. But what you also want to do is, how can you work with the global community to bring everyone up? So how can we bring in our viewpoint? How can we bring in the things that we're doing back home? as a region, not just as Saudi Arabia, and start to bridge those gaps. And then how can we showcase that and take that to other areas that are being underserved, whether it's South America, which has a lot of room for growth, Sub-Saharan Africa, which has a lot of room for growth. And how can we use what we've done in Saudi and the Middle East and not copy-paste, but use that as a roadmap to say, if we can do it here, we can do it there. And the other thing that I'm really excited about the opportunities that we've been a part of is we can say that while we are looking at revenues, we are looking at profit growth, and we are looking at all these, again, financial terms, but we're not looking at the impact over the next quarter or the next year. We want to know how what we're doing can impact and grow and add to this industry over the next 5 to 10 years. And being able to bring in that outlook of the long term rather than the short term is something that I think we can bring and is part of what we feel that we can be additive to this as a global industry.
You know what you just described, I don't know how everybody in the room feels, but you know, every time I talk to somebody, we're only talking about the next quarter, and just that ability to think about for the next 10 years and beyond, and then was amazing, right? Just that what you're able to work with. And what I just heard you say was that with some of these major investments, you're also using it to benefit the ecosystem. I think you have an initiative, was it called 966?
966.
966, it's like an ecosystem play. You know, when I talk about ecosystem play, I think there's some people from the government, IMDA here or somewhere, was talking about ecosystem and all that, and somehow when we talk about it, our numbers are missing a few zeros compared to what you're looking at. But tell us about this ecosystem play that you're looking at.
So this is one of the subsidiaries of the Savvy Gaming Group, and within 966 we have, on one hand, a publisher, both to publish Saudi games to the international audience, but also to help localize international games into local language and culture, and that's region-wide, not just Saudi, because the Arabic language is the MENA region. But there's also, as an ecosystem player, we're also creating underneath that funds and accelerators to work with local creators, and that's game creators and artists and just things within the industry that can help to build the community and the global community from Saudi out. And there's also, we've also launched through that the first chapter of the IGDA, the International Game Developers Association, which we did our first game jam.
And you're the vice president for the GEF, the Global Esports Federation.
Yes. And we're working very closely with there on creating the academy and doing many things around the world to just really start to. And again, there's always a conversation about a federation being a regulator, and that's not what an international federation, especially in gaming, can be. The game publishers are the ones who regulate their games. They're the ones that create the rules But there are things that are shared concerns across the board, of all publishers, of all tournaments, of all federations. And that's the place where I think an international federation can thrive in esports. Things like fair play, inclusiveness, drug testing, and things like that. And I think those are the place where the International Federation, and I don't know if any of you heard Paul speaking the other day, that I think they're trying to find their place in this world. We are. And we're growing into it, but this is also a very young industry. Sports is centuries old. Gaming is millennia old. But, esports is still very young. And I think, as an industry, we're all finding our way and we're all finding the right place for everyone to be. And the amazing thing about it is so young that growth anywhere is growth for everyone. So everything that I've seen, what we've been doing in Saudi, what I've seen in Africa, what I've seen in Americas, in Europe, everyone is so excited about anything coming in because growth anywhere is growth for everyone.
We talked about regulators. When things are growing, it does help to have a bit of rules or boundaries from time to time. But at the same time, I totally agree with you that I think more important, especially for this industry, is about playing. Let's just get people to play. And I'm going to switch the tempo a little bit and ask you, are you a gamer? Do you play? What do you play?
Absolutely. Lifelong gamer. I just recently got done with maybe the worst 2 months of my life playing Elden Ring. I don't know if anyone here has played that. And if you have, I am so sorry. And if you haven't, it's a great game. Never play it, please.
Great game not to play.
Yeah, it is absolute hell. And I'm hoping once I get home, I'll take a day or two off to play something new. And I've got a list which I'm not going to announce until I play. If I can get my son off my PlayStation or Xbox first. But I mean, that's one of the things that we keep talking about. I mean, whether you talk about the global federations, whether you talk about the National Federation, the Arab Federation, Savvy, everything we're doing in this industry, I think sometimes people need to take a step back and remember that we're in gaming. I mean, you have to have a little bit of fun with it. And if you're not having fun, then you're doing something wrong. I mean, there's pressure, there's timelines, there's money, there's all these things involved. But you have to take some time, play a game, have a laugh, just take some time to yourself and just have a little bit of fun.
Not just in gaming, I would argue, for any sector, whether you're in music, fashion, marketing, you should have some fun in everything you do.
And I think one of the things that I've always tried to do, coming into the federation and everything we've done, whether it's industry, Savvy, Global Esports Federation, coming into this as a gamer, I've always tried to make sure we take that conversation back and remember that this is all about the community, the gamers, the esports players, and they have to be at the heart of everything we've done and everything we do in the future. Because if you can keep them at the center, then you're always going to find the right way forward, because they're the one person that's important across the board. They're important to the game developers, they're important to the federation, they're important to the esports, they're important to the federations. I mean, they're the one part of this link that links everyone together. And I mean, I don't know how much time we have left, but what really, when I heard the name of this conversation is, why does esports matter? Is, I mean, really it comes down to every individual, every gamer, every one of you. Esports and gaming matters because you matter. And that's how we keep this moving in the right direction rather than taking a wrong turn.
I'm just giving a second to let that sink in. Having been in the industry sector for some time now, I think just so often I see industry players who kind of forget, right, about the playing or about the gamer, right? And I guess where you're coming from, right? Maybe, and we'll wrap with this, what you just mentioned. 21 million gamers, so-called, identify themselves as gamers in your country, right? And all this investments, policy, strategy is really for the long-term development of not just your country, right? Not just for GDP, but for every person, every gamer. Maybe we will make some final thoughts on.
I mean, I would just say, for those of you in the industry, keep moving forward. I mean, this is, it is fun. It is a great industry. It is growing. There are struggles, but I mean, this is an industry that is now bigger than both music and film combined as revenues. And so we have to make sure we find our way, and we find our way I always tell my team at the Saudi Federation, I don't mind taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. At least we've taken 1 step forward. But let's just make sure we keep moving forward and don't get, pulled down. And, sometimes there is a slog of things, and we don't want to get pulled down. We want to make sure we keep advancing, we keep moving forward, and we keep looking to the future. And if you're not in gaming, get in gaming now. I mean, this is the time to get in. And it doesn't matter what you're doing. In music and gaming, gaming doesn't make sense without music. If you're in, acting, if you're in art, if you're in whatever you're doing, there is a path for you and a collaboration within gaming that makes sense. And I guarantee everyone here is willing to work with you. So get in now.
Experiment. It's okay to make some mistakes, learn along the way, keep progressing, and most importantly, get in gaming. Thank you so much, Your Royal Highness Faisal bin Bandar. It's a real pleasure. Thank you.